So this is Ian Bell at Custom Gateway. Today's webinar, we're going to look at quite a specialist sort of area within the custom product platform to explain how we can use the features within the CPP for creating bespoke clothing, bespoke printed clothing in one-offs, rather than the traditional sort of mass-produced method. We want to be able to offer a method so that individually designed clothing items can effectively be produced. So a few things that I'd like to cover off: the markets that this sort of production method is suitable for, how we create the templates in the custom product platform, and how to transfer the files that are then generated into production. So traditionally, garments would be manufactured from that are manufactured from printed fabric would be mass-produced, often with multicolour screen-printed material. So on machines like the images showing there, where there are individual screens with individual colours on, and it's a roll-fed machine. So vast quantities of fabric are needed to make it viable, or even to load the machine up in the first place. So what we're doing is we're looking for a solution for providing the same end result, but for one-off bespoke printed items, but with the same quality of manufacture. So it's all about delivering the printed panels of the fabric through to the factory as efficiently as possible from the order being placed on the web directly through into the manufacturing process. So some of the, these are standard images of fabric that has been pre-printed and made up into garments. So children's wear is obviously an ideal area. Fashion clothing, there does seem to be a lot more of fully printed products these days, and also sportswear, where there's all sorts of different products, leggings like we see here, or different tops, or all sorts of different items, but they can all be produced from printed fabric. So when it comes to setting products up, the patterns are graded. So anyone familiar with this area of manufacturing will be familiar with seeing a graded pattern. So this is just a top of some sort of t-shirt type top, which has got small going through to triple extra large sizes. The thing about the patterns themselves is that as they increase in size, they don't necessarily increase in proportion. So each one, the aspect ratio of each size isn't necessarily proportional. So because it may expand larger in length than it does in width. So each size template really needs to be dealt with individually. So the graded patterns allow for the size range of the products, but there isn't actually an industry standard for grading garments, which is why a size 12 in one shop may differ from a size 12 in a different retailer's shop, as we've all experienced. The grading is usually based on the target market for the product and sized appropriately. So it's down to the individual manufacturer and how they are intending to market the type of product and the audience that they're intending it to be purchased by. That's the main criteria that's used for grading the sizes. So in terms of how it would be used in CPP, this obviously needs to be set up individually for each product range. So in CPP, the graded sizes can be set up so the consumer selects the size, which loads the relevant template from CPP, which will then dictate the print area. So if somebody from here, if they're on a website and they select a size large, it will specifically load the large template. They don't necessarily know that. All they know is they've selected a size as they would within any website. But what it physically does is it loads the large template so that any images then loaded onto it, we know are set up to the correct size for the output. So here we've got an example of some leggings. So that was on the left, we've just got a visual of this is actually a 3D model. So at Gateway we can provide either 3D or 2D visuals of the products that can then be displayed on websites. And on the right, part of the 3D product setup is there is a texture preview. So it shows the actual texture map that wraps around the wireframe of the 3D rendering. So the image on the right is the template, which will then display, or will be the layout that is then used for the artwork to be generated onto. And in this particular instance, you can see the cut lines that have been preset for this particular size. So if I just show you an example of this. So here we have the 3D rendering of the leggings, and then from there, I think in this instance you need to select a size. So this is actually, as I mentioned before, visually it looks exactly the same, but it has actually loaded a template for the particular size that I selected. So then if I'm going to customize it, so you can upload from the usual sources that you can with any of the apps in CPP. So this has just been selected with upload an image from your local machine or Instagram or Facebook, but there are lots of other sources that can be selected within the app. And there's also a gallery of images. So if I just drop an image on from the gallery for now, which is the same image. So this shows how it wraps around the 3D rendering. But as we've seen, the output will be based from this shape, and it will generate an output file. So the top band here will just be black because that's set on the template, and the two leg panels would then be printed with the design which has been uploaded. This is another example just to show the how far we can take this. If people want to be able to design in 2D so they can see what the whole thing looks like, if I go to customize this and say upload an image, there's a pattern. So if I load that, so I can see it, I can adjust it in the usual way, I can scale it, so you can add, if the app's set up to allow multiple images, then multiple images can be added, text can be added. So the customer can see what each panel looks like, but it doesn't give a very good idea of the finished product. So we can actually map up this 2D template to a 3D visual. This is obviously getting complicated in the setup, so it's going to be dependent on the market that you are intending this to be used for. So there are simple ways to set the templates up, and there are more complicated ways to set the templates up, depending on how you want to portray it to your target market. So if I want to see how the thing can be displayed as a finished product, I can click the preview button, which will then map the design up to a 3D rendering, which is then showing how the product would then look once it's fully completed. So other ways of setting templates up, so this is a view of a print output and also the layout. It's not exactly the same layout, but it gives you the impression of how it's all set up. So the guidelines on the right dictate the image area, so these can be masks that are set up on the product template, and as well as allowing customers to be able to upload their own designs, like this skull design and the stars that could be uploaded by a customer. Some designs will, or some products are set up so that just individual personalization is allowed on a pre-designed product. So this one is specifically intended so that you can just add initials where it says Dan at the moment. You can just add initials, and it will actually take a hidden print area, which is all of the background design, and it will incorporate the personalization that's been added. So I've got an example on here. So this is just the layout of the product. But what this is then going to do is, as we can see here, this is only set for initials, but it'll give you the general impression of how it works. It's got a maximum character length of 3. So My name's only got 3 letters in, so if I type that. So this will show what can be done to the product, but if you just think in terms of the standard features of CPP, there is a multitude of different ways that products can be set up and allow the personalisation. So once this is done, this is actually passing the text information at the suitable size and incorporating that into the background design. So when it gets added to cart, it would then generate an output file exactly like this. So for products like this, these could be dye printed, dye sublimation printed, so it could provide the full blue background, and then it would be printed onto a transfer sheet and with the skull design all set up in it, so it would print the full thing. Or it could be printed on a direct-to-garment machine onto navy fabric. So it's down to production methods really about how the products are set up. So this is just an example of an industrial fabric dye sublimation printing machine. So the transfers are printed off first, they're fed through this machine, which then fuses the design into the fabric itself, and then this is a laser cutter, so we can actually set the cut lines. As we've seen, cut lines like these can be set within the design, so that when it comes to the laser cutter can recognise quite often a 100% magenta cut line can be set to match the cutting guides of these graded patterns, so that it will then, as it's fed through, it will recognise target marks that are around the image area, so that it will know where to then follow the cut line, and then the cut panels can be the cut panels will automatically be cut by the laser. So the main points from all of this really is that the system will allow consumers to see what the designs will look like in 3D or 2D. They can adjust the design with the live preview, so they can see exactly what the things are going to look like. You can add multiple images of their own or select from a gallery, as well as adding text to their selected design. And then once the job is passed through the checkout, so once you are here and you go through the checkout process as normal, that's then, and the payment has gone through, that is the trigger to then generate the artwork. And the artwork would be passed through in this example like this, whether it's going to be DTG printed or whether it's going to be dye sub printed. That would generate the artwork file, which is then downloaded and run to the printing machine. So the artwork fits exactly to how the template is set up, so that's with or without the cut lines. Some people just cut to the edge of the printable area and allowing for the seam allowance that's needed, or they can print to an existing cut line that's printed at the same time, but obviously the customer can't see that when they're designing the product. Once the material's gone through the printing process, it's taken to the cutting section, which can either be manual or laser, and from this point on the sewing can be completed. So all of the elements for allowing customers to be able to personalise their own individual clothing items with designs of their choice are all available. This is quite an advanced setup procedure within CPP, but it's all achievable within standard features of the platform as a whole. So if you're working within the clothing market and you want to be able to, or you want to investigate how you can be offering individual personalised, fully printed clothing items and generate the files that you need to be able to take them easily into production, then please feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to talk through the process as a whole and how we can help you get up and running and into the wonderful world of mass customization. So my details are here. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and thank you for joining us this morning.